Good morning, everybody. Hope you guys are doing well. We are, 11 days into 2024. So I figured why not come on here and do a little temperature check, see how you guys are doing. Are you still holding true to some of your resolutions? Have you forgotten about them already? And maybe some of you have found that setting really, really ambitious resolutions was not the wisest move. And if that is where you're at, that's totally cool. That is what learning is all about. I made that mistake many times in my life when I want to make big changes that I got way too ambitious. I made a video, I think it was on January 1st, sharing at least my personal point of view on New Year's resolutions. Some people are for them. Some people think they're a waste of time. You don't need to do it. Who cares? It doesn't really matter. If you are trying to incorporate any new kind of a habit into your life, especially when it comes down to being more productive, with sync licensing, showing up at your DAW every single day, being more available maybe for some of your library partners, being more intentional with your scheduling. So you're not feeling like you're constantly, I know I had this struggle many times, especially as a new father, of feeling like I'm trying to squeeze in as much time as I can for some of my sync projects or work, but then feeling guilty that I'm taking time away from the kids. And so I'm not quite 100% focused on my work. And then when I was with my kids, feeling like I wasn't quite focused on them, because then I'm always thinking about the work that I have to complete. So things like that, wherever it is you are in your journey. In that first video I made on the first, was just talking about how if you make your changes tiny, like 1%, that's why I called it the 1% rule. Those are changes that can be almost so achievable, they're impossible to fail at. And what I mean by that is that if you're trying to, for example, change your lifestyle and becoming more healthy, like you want to eat healthier food, you want to exercise, you want to lose weight, you want to be, more ripped or whatever it is you're trying to do, we definitely want those results sooner than later. Like, who wants to spread out, changing your lifestyle over the course of a year or 2 years or even 5 years? We can't even think about 5 years in the future. We want to look better by the end of the week or maybe by the end of the day. We obviously want results very, very fast. So we mistakenly try to change all of our behaviors and habits immediately, and we change all of them radically. And we throw out everything that we've been doing and we introduce all new habits and a whole new lifestyle. And of course, right about now, maybe towards the middle or the end of January, is when your body and your mind start to go, what the hell are we doing here? This is way different than what we're used to. We are out of our comfort zone. I used to enjoy my cruising altitude in life. I liked eating what I was eating. I liked either not exercising, or I liked exercising the little amount that I did. And all of this new change and this new environment that I'm in, and literally like changing the physical chemistry of my body, feels extremely uncomfortable. Let's stop doing this. This is too much work. This is too much of a headache. Let's just go back to what was comfortable and what was usual. Even if it wasn't the healthiest lifestyle, it was what we were used to. It was our cruising altitude. So that's when you were trying to introduce way too many changes all at once. So I think if you go to the 1% of a change, meaning you don't change your diet all at once, you just maybe start to, one example would be soda. Many people are drinking too much soda, or they feel they're drinking too much soda and they want to stop drinking it. Well, I think probably the not great way to deal with that is to stop drinking soda altogether. That's a huge 100% change. And your body chemistry is literally going to go through withdrawals from that, from all the sugar, the caffeine, the whatever chemicals are thrown in those things. That's not going to be a really fun thing for you to go through. It's basically going to be like going through withdrawals. So there are some people that can really deal with withdrawals and just kind of muscle through it and get through the other side. But I think probably a better way to go with that is to just cut out one soda a day. That would be sort of the 1% change. Let's say you drink 3 sodas a day. Can you go down to 2? And maybe if that's too much of a change, maybe you go from 3 sodas every day to maybe 3 sodas every day, except for on the weekends, you cut it down to 1 soda a day, or maybe 2 sodas a day. So you're kind of making this tiny, seemingly small 1% change. You're not giving up the habit. You're just still going on with it. So your body's not constantly, it's not completely going to go through with shock or withdrawals from you changing this habit completely, but you're just sort of slowly changing the habit so that it feels like normal now. Rather than having 3 sodas a day, going down to 2 sodas feels now your new normal. And you can keep up with that for a couple of weeks, couple of months, until that becomes your new cruising altitude. And that's what I mean by the 1% change. And then when that feels like, okay, this is now normal. I think 3 sodas actually feels like too much now. Okay, great. You've made that successful 1% change. Can you cut it down to 1 soda a day, or maybe 1.5, or whatever feels right for you? And that's what I mean by the end of the year, you can get to the point where you're drinking no sodas and consistently staying off of soda. That's the whole key. I know, oh no, it's better because soda's so bad for you. You got to give it up as soon as possible. I understand that's the sort of what people want to do. And that's maybe even what like a health professional would tell you to do. But I'm thinking about it in terms of what's going to actually create a new version of yourself where you can stay in this new habit. Well, think about, you don't have to make this change all at once, but by the end of the year, maybe you're now no longer drinking soda, and that becomes your new cruising altitude. And drinking soda starts to feel kind of strange and uncomfortable and like, I got really jittery with that. I don't like the way that makes me feel anymore. Your body has finally gone through the metamorphosis and gradually gotten to the point where now not drinking soda is the new you. And more importantly, as a result of all of this you've been doing throughout the year, or however long it takes you to get there, you've actually incorporated a new identity. That's the most important thing about your new habit. The new identity says, I'm not somebody who drinks soda, or I drink soda very rarely, or once a day, or whatever it is, right? So a lot of times our identity gets wrapped up in our habits, and we think that by losing those habits, we lose our identity. But it's not true. It's just something that our brains sort of wired together. What you're doing is not focusing so much about removing a habit or removing a part of your identity, but adding a new one that's more intentional, a new one that you feel is more fitting to you. So that's just obviously, diet, exercise, soda stuff. Let's talk about sync licensing. Obviously, I think many of you guys are struggling with, and you guys can let me know in the chat. What's up, Kevin? Atlas Music, Alvaro, good to see you guys. Some of you guys, many of you guys, probably struggle with being consistent with showing up and creating new music with or without libraries. I know that was a struggle for me many times in my career, even with library agreements and even with library relationships, build up really strong ones and getting placements and getting opportunities. You might not understand or can fathom how anybody could ever feel burned out by getting opportunities shelled out of them every single week. I was there a few different times because that became my new cruising altitude. Was I show up, I usually get an email or a text in the morning. Hey, Jesse, this is what we need. This is the client. This is the reality show. This is what we're looking to get some music for. Do you want to throw in on this? And it's like, yes, 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 yes. And then as the years go on, you go, yeah, okay, sure, okay, what? And then you just kind of get to this point where it's like, all right, this is just my job now, right? It's like the excitement and the allure and the twinkle and the sparkles of it have all dimmed away, and now it's just a job. You're just working, you're creating music, and some of those tracks you're going to love, some of those tracks you're not that into. Some tracks will be very inspiring and you'll be excited that you wrote them, and other tracks you'll feel like, I just got to muscle through this one and check it off that I sent the track off to the client, because even if it doesn't get accepted, I want them to know that I'm still here as a part of their team. I want to be a team player for them. So that's just sort of what this industry, I think, is going to show for you guys at some point in your career as well. I hope I hope you do have some tools, more importantly, a community around you. I think that was definitely the biggest thing that I didn't have when I was going through my moments of doubt and moments of feeling like I wanted to give up on the whole thing. Because I didn't have, a YouTube channel like this. I didn't have Sync Academy. I didn't have a large sort of Rolodex of people I could reach out to and kind of say, hey, I'm feeling a little bit, burned out. So sorry, Trevor, I tempted him to want a soda. My bad. I know I made it sound really good, right? Atlas Music, my resolution was to become more detached from my music so I can sell it. It's going. Okay. I can produce so many songs, but I become attached to most of them. Such an important point, Atlas. I totally empathize with that. That was actually probably a transition that I went through early in my career. It was like the first couple of years in sync licensing, because I still remember my first batch of like 10 tracks that I sent off to that first library that I sent them off to do. And I remember those were the ones that I would, put on a CD and I put them in my car and I was blasting them and bumping them to and from work and just showing them all my friends, like, check this out, check that out. I was being so excited and so, just on fire for this kind of new thing that I was doing. And then as the sort of months and years went on, where I was just like, okay, another album. It's just like one after another, I started to more and more let go of the attachment to them, because it just became like a numbers operation where it's like, well, I don't really have space in my heart or my soul to be attached to 100 songs that I've written in the last year or two, whatever it had been, right? So that might be something that for a lot of you guys, that just the more you stick with this, the more you keep cranking out music and keep putting new tracks into the catalogs that you're working with, you'll just have less and less bandwidth to even be so attached to them. I know it's not the case for all producers. I do know some producers that have probably hundreds of tracks, and they do see their tracks as their little babies, their little infants, and they're so protective over them, and like, oh my gosh, I have to be so careful about who I give this music to. And I'm not going to say you should never be overprotective about your music. It is your work, it's your creativity, but there is definitely a sense of overprotectiveness, over attachment to music that I think gets in the way of a lot of producers' progress in this business. It's not that anybody is getting in their way or that anybody is not giving them a shot or something like that, but they're just constantly they're looking for perfection. They're looking for the perfect music library partner that can give them a guarantee that they're going to get placements or something like that, or that the library owner is going to fly them out there and give them first class. I don't know what they're expecting, but they're expecting a lot from somebody. And to be honest with you, you're just not going to probably find that with production music libraries. You'll find definitely great quality communication. You'll find phone calls. You'll find emails. You'll find timely communication back and forth. But the sure thing, like the guarantee, like this is definitely where my music is going to get placed, it doesn't exist. Even if a library owner loves you and is just like dropping everything to get you into their catalog, they can't put a gun to the head of their clients to say, you better use this guy's music in your next TV show, movie, or commercial. I mean, they can, but say goodbye to that library owner. They're going to jail for a long time. So it's just really not going to have, you're just never going to find that sure thing in this business. So there is a level of, it's faith. I mean, that's what I've described it as. It's just kind of letting go, doing your best research, doing your due diligence, making sure that you're partnering with the best possible company that you possibly can, which, by the way, quickly, I do need to let you guys know that we have our first Sync Connect session coming up this Saturday with Mike Giannotto of Reverse Play. Let me just show you guys something real quick. I also want to be careful. Don't want to accidentally showcase somebody's email. But as I told you guys, when we get up to 100 members, we're increasing the monthly rate. And right there, you can see in our Sync Connect membership, we have 94. So that means we got 6 spots left. And I believe, we'll see. But I think those are going to get taken today. If not today, by tomorrow for sure. So speaking of doing your due diligence, finding the best kind of libraries, partners that you want to work with, and sort of sniffing out these people before you decide to partner with them, Sync Connect is probably the best bet you've got for doing that very thing. So we have these amazing CEOs lined up for the first half of 2024. We're going to have actually a lot more coming as the year goes on. Trevor, who's here in the chat, what's up, Trevor, will be obviously one of them. He was there with us last year, and we'll definitely have a follow-up session with him probably into the summer and into the fall of 2024. But the first one is this Saturday with Mike Giannotto, Reverse Play. Mike does not accept unsolicited submissions at all with his company, Reverse Play. They keep things under lock and key. They are very, very tight on who they allow work with them. So the only way that you can get, if you don't know Mike already, and get a pitch into him is either through a service like Sync Connect, or if you're in Sync Academy, he's now offering his licensing opportunities with us there as well. I just started those up again. But this Saturday at 9:30 a.m., we're going to be doing our first Sync Connect session with Mike, and we're going to ask him what he's looking for, what his company has on the docket, what kind of music he needs, what kind of music he doesn't need. And I believe we have 3 tracks already submitted for his review. We have that means we have 2 more spots left. We cap spots left. We cap that at 5 for all of these sessions. So that's coming up this Saturday. Then the following Saturday, just 1 week from this Saturday, we'll have Tim from Ninja Kitty, and Ninja Kitty is just extremely high quality company. Actually, Trevor is the one that referred me to them, and so checking them out, they've got some amazing high quality placements, and they've done some great work. You guys can check out all of these guys by going to the Sync Connect website. It's actually, the link is in the description box below. And then just a couple weeks after that, we're kicking it off with Eric of Sonic Librarian, and we're going to just keep on going. As you notice, we've got 2 in January and actually 3 scheduled in February. February is going to be a very busy month for Sync Connect. And obviously, with my goal with all of this is I want you guys to get directly connected with these guys. I want you to hear from them directly. I want you to humanize them. I want you to realize that these are just human beings just like you and I. They've got families, most of them. They've got bills to pay. They're doing their best to try to keep the lights on. They're trying to be advocates for their composers and producers like you, and they're also kind of trying to really, fight for and serve their TV and film clients extremely well. We also had this really cool testimonial just happened yesterday I want to share with you guys. This is from Brandon Ashley, who's a Sync Academy member, but also a Sync Connect member, that he's grateful for for Sync Academy and the Connect. Because of it, he's got accepted into his first music library, and he gets to hear directly from CEOs in terms of what they want and what they're working on currently. And he's never been in any music producer or composer community like this. So that was a really cool little point of feedback that Brandon shared. Brandon did get accepted by one of our recent CEOs in Sync Connect. So this is proven, guys. This is not some theoretical thing. We actually do this every single time. In fact, I will tell you, every single time we have a library CEO come be a guest, we do get one so far. We'll see if we can keep that record up for 2024. But in 2023, every CEO has been directly connected with one of our members. So this is how you guys can get access to some of these companies directly, hear from them before you pitch your music, and decide whether or not they're going to be somebody that you want to, take a shot with your music. So I encourage you guys to check us out if you'd like to learn more about that. There's a link in the box below. And again, 6 members, that's all we got. I can still count there. 6 members. And after that, we are going to the $39.99 a month rate. So it's definitely going up quite a bit, $15. So right now you can still get it for $24.99 a month and get access to all these CEOs in the first couple of months of 2024. And it is cancel anytime, 30-day money back guarantee. So only stay if it's valuable. If you're not finding value, please don't stay. We don't need you to stay. Only if you're finding that this is creating a little bit of more of a sense of confidence, and then giving that kind of that inside track, that inside information into who these library CEOs are, but more importantly, what are they currently working on right now? So what these Zoom calls are giving you guys. Oh, I should have told you as well. If you click on that link, scroll down, I put a new preview video up there, just giving you guys a little sense of some of the Zoom sessions we've already had, and some of the insights and the feedback that you guys can expect to get on these calls. But what you're getting on these calls that you're not going to get if you just go look up these websites or try to research them on your own is library CEOs are not always posting and blogging about what they're currently working on and what's going on. They're very busy just serving these clients and trying to find out how to get music over to them and all that good stuff. So we get to basically just steal an hour of their time and say, what are you currently working on right now? What initiatives or what clients and all that kind of stuff. So we have to hear directly from what they are trying to get involved with, what part of their catalog they're trying to build up, and what clients are currently trying to serve. So you don't have to kind of guess and just throw some music into a catalog and hope that it's going to be the right one. You'll know by the end of the hour whether this is going to be a library that you feel is going to be a high quality partner for you. So all right, let's get back to some chats, some questions. I want to check in also with your guys' resolutions if you guys have any updates to share on those. Trevor from Get It Done is saying he found out about a placement the other day, didn't recognize the track title, barely remember. Oh, he got a placement. He personally got a placement. Okay, barely remember making the track and didn't even remember what library it was on. Awesome, man. That's a very common thing for me too. When I get my statements, especially when it's a big one, I'm always like, what is that track? I can vaguely remember it. So that's great. So Trevor, obviously, all the music that he's put into this industry has obviously gotten to that point now where you kind of just do it and forget it. And I just noticed that a lot of people that do this professionally, generally, not on the artist side. I think on the artist side, obviously, there's a little bit more of a personal attachment because it's really your personal expression. So that's a kind of a whole different animal. But on sync licensing, every time that I bring those success stories for you guys here on my channel, or with Trevor, or with anybody who's been doing it for a long time, you'll start to notice that's the common denominator. Is there's a sense of shoot for the opportunity. In fact, that was definitely one of the main points that Troy McCubbin of Alloy Tracks was letting us know, who's done some of the biggest trailers in the industry, that they pitch for the opportunity, they say thank you so much, and then they literally let it go. They forget it and they just move on to the next one because they know it's going to be a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months before they find out, and they might never even hear if they even got the opportunity or not. It might be a year before they're like, oh, well, there's the trailer we were trying to go for and we didn't get it. So if you're sitting around like just agonizing over it, wasting your mental energy, you will burn out so quick in this business. So I have found that as a very common trait, that people that succeed in this business are able to turn off the attachment knob, whatever that is in our brain, and just literally keep working, keep your head down, keep moving, keep grinding. Paul, Gavin, no video news. Articles are fine. Oh, okay, these are your resolutions. No gas station food. That's a good one. Or fast food. Wow. Occasional soda is fine. Must go to the grocery store to get food when traveling, but no garbage food from there either. Cool. Those are good rules. I like that. I mostly play gigs right now, so the food thing is a huge challenge. Yeah, so, Paul, being on the road and traveling, eating healthy is, gosh, that is extremely, extremely difficult. You have to be you got to plan ahead. Definitely have to kind of sort of compromise a lot and just do the best you possibly can. But if time is limited and your options for eating are limited, junk food and not great food is just so easy and so quick to come by in our world. It's definitely in our country here. So that is tricky. A lot of times, if you can bring stuff with you, if you can bring healthy snacks or even just fruits or whatever, yeah. But that is very, very difficult to do. Sometimes that's why protein powders can be something that just sort of helps. If you get a really high quality protein powder that can kind of just be mixed in with whatever, milk or water or something like that, that can kind of just get you through a meal so you're not super starving, but at least you got some good nutrition in you. But that is tricky, especially if you're gigging a lot. So I wish you the best on that one. All right, Cloves, is your resolution is to finish an album and submit it to a library. Well, good luck on that. Hopefully that's going to be working out for you. We will be starting our Sync 60 challenge again in Sync Academy. For those of you that have been with us for a while, you know about Sync 60. For those of you that are fairly new, it's where we as a community come together and set our collective goals, our individual goals, but we try to achieve them collectively at one time through a 60-day process. So I'll explain more about that when we get it started in February. But that might be something that could be helpful for you, Cloves, to sort of set your goal realistically and mark it down in terms of week by week. That's kind of what we do with the Sync 60 challenge. Cool. Yeah, at last, definitely. All of us go through the same stuff in this business. I don't think there's one producer that does this even full time who's doing great in it, who hasn't dealt with, rejection and demotivation and feeling like we're kind of struggling here. So, and also just being detached from music. Yeah, it's definitely what we all deal with. So. Cloves is saying you finished 2 albums so far and pitched it to 2 libraries. 1 library got back to you and you're setting up a meeting to chat. Cool. The other album I just submitted yesterday. Wow. Well, okay. So at least 1 got the door open for you. So congrats to you. That's exciting. I'm really glad to hear that. Hopefully that turns into a really fruitful relationship for you and you feel good about working with them. So that's great, man. Big high five to you. The DAW, Kevin is saying the DAW gets opened every night, but YouTube is a major distraction for me. That's a great point, Kevin. We were just talking about that in one of our recent Sync Academy hangouts. One of our members, Troy, was talking about, he's same kind of issue, but he says for the computer, this isn't going to be an option that's probably feasible for everybody, but for his solution to that was that I believe he said for the computer that he makes music on, he does not even have a web browser, I believe, or something like that. He had some sort of a way, or maybe the internet connection was turned off. He had something for that particular computer when he needs to be focused on music. Same with all of us. It's like if it's available and we're kind of feeling a little friction with our creative process, man, I'll just go watch a couple of videos. That'll get me unstuck. And it usually doesn't. It just kind of leads you down a different rabbit hole and you sort of forget what you're doing. That was his solution, was to literally just say no to it and not have it on his computer. I think that's probably the best move for a lot of us, is not to rely on our will, because our will in the morning can maybe be super strong, but by the afternoon or the evening, or especially when there's writer's block and there's a lot of, like I said, friction with trying to be creative, your willpower really just kind of diminishes so quickly. And if you can see a distraction like your phone or like a tab or a notification, it's just so much harder to say no to it. So in some ways, it's like out of sight, out of mind. That at least is what works for me. The days that I keep this phone, I have this little, it's funny, I've kind of accidentally created this drawer in my house that is actually really difficult to open. I can put my phone in it very easily, but for me to reach in there and grab the phone out, it's not as simple as just grabbing it out. I have to kind of use 2 fingers to get it out just perfectly, because the phone's not meant to be in this little slot, basically. And it's perfect, because that little bit of friction of like, I can't see the phone, first of all, it's just this block in there. I can't see it. And it's also a little difficult for me to get it out. So I'm like, I don't really need the phone. That little bit of friction is actually the only thing that I have found so far that has allowed me to keep my addiction to my phone, and mostly to YouTube, same as you, in check. Is just, I don't see it. It's a little difficult to get out. And obviously I keep it on silent. I don't ever hear it, nothing like that. But of course, there's always that, well, what if somebody needs to call me? What if there's an urgent text message, which is like it almost never happens. But that's your brain trying to rationalize, trying to get you back into that sort of like, dopamine drip of getting the phone. But I think that's probably one of the only ways we can deal with these really, really strong pulls from all these, sources of entertainment and social media, is to keep it out of sight, out of mind, especially in our creative zone, in our music making zone. So if you can keep your phone or whatever you got on your computer just off, quit, uninstall it, whatever you got to do So it's just not something you even hear or see. I think that would basically increase your chances of staying focused. At least that's my advice. Hopefully that would work. Where are we at here? Okay. Alvaro saying Sync Connect and Sync Up are the two best investments I made for my sync career. What would have taken me years of work only took me less than a year because of direct relationships that were made. Right on, man. That's really cool. In fact, I want to actually maybe screenshot that because I want people to know that that's what that's about. And that's exactly, you guys can see in the chat, Alvaro's comment right there is exactly summarizing why I created those services right there. It took me a long time to figure a lot of this stuff out, to figure out how do you create a relationship? How do you serve a library? How do you make sure that you become one of their inner circle members? You know, you stab, you try things. Sometimes you get rejected. Sometimes you get into a library, but you kind of fumble around for a while because you don't really know what you're doing. And then, of course, for me, a big part of it was feeling inadequate. Like I didn't feel like I had enough to give. I didn't feel like I was good enough, or that I just had enough confidence in myself that I could reach out to another library or to more libraries and be a member. I would hear their music in their catalog and go like, I just don't have what it takes to work with them. And those are the big fellas. I'm just kind of a small fish. I just don't belong. That was that internal monologue that started to really eat at me and I think prevent me from taking a shot at some bigger companies that I, now regret that I didn't take a shot at. So that's why Sync Up is here, to get you guys in the same room. If you can get there in person, we'll talk about that as the next couple months go on. But Sync Connect is something you can do right from your home, literally from your home studio. You don't have to live in LA. You don't have to be in the same room as these people. You don't have to travel. You don't have to go to any networking events. You don't have to do anything. You can literally from your phone in your bed, if you want to, directly connect with these people and hear from them, submit a track if you want to, and just, you'll notice, and I think Alvaro, all of you guys that are in Sync Connect, you guys can probably attest to this, that you might be a bit intimidated by these people before you jump on the Zoom call because you see their credits, right? Some of the credits, I didn't go over them in this video, but there's a video on the link for Sync Connect. You can get it in the description box. You can see all their credits. I go over them, and they're kind of intimidating, especially some of them that have these major Hollywood placements. It's like, oh boy, do I really belong with them? But you'll feel at the end of 1 hour of hanging out with them, it's just they're kind of average people. Like the production music world is not record labels. It's not Hollywood. It's not really even LA, even though a lot of it's based in LA. There's just a service mindset there. There's a humility there. And the Hollywood, I got cool sunglasses walking inside to a studio session. That's just not a part of our world. And you'll find that out very quickly once you get to know these people. So that's what I want you guys to get out of Sync Connect and Sync Up, is really the confidence that once you walk in or go to a Zoom session or come to Sync Up, you might feel like, I don't know if I got what it takes, or maybe I know I don't have what it takes, but I'm just going to go here anyways. You should be feeling much more like, not a guarantee, I'm not giving you guys guarantees that you will work with these companies. They get to decide if your music is right for them, but you should be feeling more like, oh, I can see a path now. I can actually see myself working with these people and having direct relationship with a Trevor, a Mike, a Perry, a Troy, all these people that you guys are meeting through these services. That's really the biggest thing I want you guys to take away from this, because whether or not you get accepted by one library or another library, that's really up to them. That's really up to your music. That's completely out of my control. I can't give you guys those guarantees. But as long as you feel, as a result of these services, that there's a clear place for you to go, a clear path, and also getting these insights in terms of where you can actually start to serve them best and have the highest chances of getting accepted and getting placements. That's really where the value of this stuff really lies. And I think that's what we provide that you probably just can't find anywhere. You certainly aren't going to find this kind of stuff just doing the research on your own. You can go do it. You can do your Google searches, go look at these library websites, do it all yourself. If you feel empowered, you feel like you've got that under your control, go do it. I'll never tell people not to do it. That's really what I was doing in most of my career, because I didn't have, though, a service like this. I didn't have these options. So if you feel like these options would really shave off a lot of time and energy for you, then I encourage you to join us. Again, those 6 spots will definitely be going fairly quickly, I'm pretty sure. Atlas Music is saying, I hope I can find a balance between what songs are for me as an artist and what's for sync. 10,000 views twice on YouTube isn't a viral song, but I feel like a big YouTube achievement for me. That is, man. 10,000 is a lot on YouTube. I know these days, we're seeing songs that are doing 100,000, millions of views, but 10,000 views, if it was organic, it wasn't like something that you pumped out or paid for views or something like that. If it was like an organic track and 10,000 people more or less liked it, listened to it, you got something there. I would not sneer my nose at that. That is a really, really nice, big achievement. And that means that something that you're doing is resonating with people. So don't ever compare yourself to the next guy who's got 1 million, views on his track, because guess what he's doing? He could be, comparing himself to some major artist that gets 25 million, and that 25 million artist is like, well, I don't have the biggest one. I don't have the billion views like a Lady Gaga or a Justin Bieber or something like that. So you can never win that unless I guess you are whatever. I don't know what the highest placed or highest viewed YouTube song is. One of you guys might know that. But that is just, it's not going to help you out. But really, I would say the better thing is to focus on how do I really better keep serving these 10,000 people? 10,000 people is a lot. Like that is a real fan base potentially right there, that if I could cultivate a relationship, keep putting out high quality music, maybe try to communicate with them on a consistent basis in whatever way that is, either it's video, emails, messages, live streaming, whatever you're going to do, you got something there. So like really devote that, like see it as like a garden that's like sprouting, and really feed it as much nutrients as you possibly can, and not try to compare your great garden with some monstrous huge farmland next to you. Like that doesn't really help at all. So really just focus on what you have working for you, because that's a lot. That's definitely something that I would be very proud of. I personally would be if I put out a track with 10,000 views on YouTube. That's great, man. JMO, with sound quality getting more competitive, a lot of tracks that get placed, pop and trailer, sound like they have $1 million mastering. How do we compete with that with a home studio? The sort of long and short answer is get better. Going out and paying some mastering engineer, I don't think is the solution. I don't think that's going to be something that, you're going to be going broke essentially doing that and shelling it. And then of course, what if the library you just paid, all this money for a mastering engineer to master your tracks? They don't like it. They want changes. Well, you got to go back to that mastering engineer and pay them. So honestly, you got to just keep trying. You got to get better at it. And the only way to do that is to compare, right? And listen to your tracks, doing the best you can, and go pull and listen to some music from some high quality production music. Maybe some of these tracks that get amazing pop and trailer placements that you're really looking up to and going, man, these tracks sound amazing. You should be using those as your references and just trying to be honest as you possibly can to listen to your master and then listen to theirs and go like, what's really different here, right? Remember those games when we were kids, you'd have two pictures that almost look identical. There'd be like 4 things that were different. You had to find the differences. Same thing. Spot the differences. So how's your low end is a big one. I always find that a lot of people that don't really have a confident mixing or mastering ability, their low end is usually not present. It's kind of it's present, but it's very like muddy and kind of like mixed up. And a lot of things feel like just uneven, or not uneven, but unclean. Everything just feels a little bit too mashed up together. Like the bass and the kick and things just don't feel very clear and defined. It's very murky and kind of wobbly down there. It just doesn't feel very clean. So a lot of stuff needs to get cleaned up on the low end. Or there's really not enough low end, so it kind of, the track doesn't feel like it has a lot of energy, and that's because the low end is, a lot of times people are mixing without maybe a subwoofer, and that's okay. You don't have to have a subwoofer, but at least have some headphones that give you that low end presence, so that, mix on your main monitors for a long time, and then put on those headphones and really listen, like what's going on with the low end of your track. If you don't have an ability to even get tuned into your low end, you might be sort of neglecting a big part of your mix. And the low end is really where the energy is. If you listen to a lot of music that has high energy, it's the low end that's really giving you a lot of that sort of forward momentum in the track. So if you're, not hearing it and you're not monitoring it properly, that could be a problem. But sorry to give you a sort of non-quick answer, but it's just going to take time. You got to keep trying. You got to keep practicing, and definitely not keep listening and watching tutorials and falling for, well, it's that next plugin. It's that next piece of outboard gear that I need. It's not. It's really none of those things. It's really just you mastering your mastering process and becoming better at your craft. It's just, there's no shortcut for that kind of stuff. You have to just literally work at it and be consistent with it. All right, cool. Cloves, you're already in Sync Academy, right on. And the tutorials helped a bit. You're coming from an artist side, and Sync is a whole other beast. You're right. It is a different kind of beast for sure. So, Vittorio, welcome. I think I saw you before, and I'm sorry I didn't give you a shout out. Glad to see you again. Vittorio's all the way from Italy. He says he read a comment from a 40-plus year veteran on this business about feeling absolutely numb to music after so much disattachment. He was then suggesting to pursue a little bit of artist career on the aside. Yes, I would say that's a really smart move, Vittorio. And I can double down on what he's saying there. Is you can get to a point, because we do artistic work, but it's not art, really, what we're doing, right? Because we are obviously trying to primarily serve a commercial purpose. And in fact, if you don't have that as your highest, point of, where you're going with this, you're just not going to succeed. If you're constantly only thinking about, well, how do I only stay true to what I want to do? You might have amazing music, but the clients are going to just pass you over because it's not really communicating what they want to communicate for their opportunities. So it's absolutely true that there does need to be some time that you set aside. And I did this probably not as often as I should have, but it is something that I would say you should do it on a regular basis, where every so often, you make one for yourself. The actors talk about this, right? Where they do one for Hollywood, one project for themselves, one just to make the money, and then one for kind of like an artist passion, something that they really believe in or that they really want to push themselves to, showcase their acting abilities. I don't know if we can do 1-to-1. I don't know if we've got that we can afford that. But I would say, every so often, maybe once a quarter and once every 6 months, you do tap back into that kind of core essence of just being a music creator for the sake of creating music, not for a project, not for a library, but just maybe for the express purpose of expressing what emotion you're going through. You want to get extremely outside of the box creative and kind of go through, just have no reference track in front of you, have no purpose, and just go, I just want to explore. I want to get lost in the creative process and just have fun doing that. That's a really important thing to do from time to time to kind of ignite that fire inside of you, because I think that's probably that flame that does get extinguished as the months and years go on in this business, is if we don't kind of feed that up every so often, we start to feel like we are AI robots that are just combining music and putting things together and becoming very formulaic and robotic, maybe getting really good at following briefs and getting the gigs. That's kind of where I was in my career, but just not feeling really fulfilled by any of that because it's not challenging really anymore. It's certainly feeling very, very creatively, empty. It's just it's sort of a part of this endeavor. So I definitely, I agree with whoever was saying that. That certainly is a challenge that you have to kind of be aware of. So. All right, Jack wants to produce 10 sync albums this year. Pretty lofty ambition. I will agree, Jack. Depending on how productive you were in 2023, like did you produce 8 last year? If you produced 8 last year, 10 can be doable. If you produced 1 last year, don't say 10. You are really going to be shooting yourself in the foot, I believe. I never want to be somebody to discourage people from being very ambitious. That's not what I'm about. I definitely love when people really want to do big things. You just get a little bit older in life and you realize when you see people coming to like, I'm about to do this, I'm going to do amazing things, I'm going to do 10 albums. It kind of depends in context from where you were coming from before. So maybe 10 is possible. I wish you all the best. But if you only did 1 last year or 2, 4 is a better number. Maybe 5 would be a more believable, realistic, something that you can kind of, again, we're talking about sustainability and not blowing up or getting super excited and working ourselves to the bone and then burning out, right? That's my concern with your resolution, Jack, is if 10 albums get you to the point where, sure, you got them done, but maybe you started to phone it in because it's just starting to feel like it's work now, and you are really, really burned out on the process of creating that much music that you don't want to keep doing it. I think the chances of sustaining a long-term career in this business would go better for somebody that's doing 4 albums a year, maybe 5, and they find that that's pushing themselves to kind of get a little bit more productive than they usually were, but it's sustainable. It's not burning them out. They still feel excited about it. They still love making new music, and they can't wait to start another album. That is going to produce a much more fruitful career than the producer that does 10 this year, and then they literally throw their computer out the window because they're completely burned out. There's just too much, like between all the other things you have going on in your lives. Because that's the one thing you guys got to remember. Like you and I, when I got started, I didn't have a family, didn't even have a girlfriend, didn't really have much in terms of like I had to devote a lot of time and attention outside of my work. I mean, friendships, some family get-togethers, that kind of a thing. But I was really fortunate in that I was young enough that I could afford to really just focus so much of just going to my day job, and when I was off of my day job, just focusing on sync licensing. And then when I started to take that turn into more and more sync licensing becoming my full-time focus, I didn't have any other mouths to feed. I didn't have any other real responsibilities. So I had just a lot of time to give myself to do all this stuff. And I know a few of you might fit in that boat. You might have some of you guys that are younger, don't have the families yet, don't have that. But a lot of you guys I do know are, maybe in your 30s, maybe even in your 40s or 50s, and you do have families. You have mouths to feed. You've got family members, you've got wives, husbands, kids that you do need to be giving your attention and your time to. I don't think it's healthy to be shutting everybody out of your life and just focusing on sync licensing. I think that is definitely a recipe for not only just a burnout with this industry, but probably a burnout with your actual family, which sometimes, sync licensing, you probably can always find another library to work with. Can't always find other kids that you're gonna, create that relationship with. So usually you're getting your one family and that's it. So you guys have to kind of be the arbiter, obviously, on how much you can devote to this. But I think it's better to be consistent at a lower level than to be super ambitious for like the next couple of months or a year, because that's where 95% of people are. Like, they are super ambitious and excited. They might have found a video about sync licensing, got started, maybe even came into Sync Academy, Sync Connect, Sync Up, something like that. Got excited, got hyped up on it. And they're just like, yeah, now I'm ready to go. Now I'm going to just keep making music. And it's like, 3 months later, 6 months later, they're gone. And that is just such a common story. And I don't know. I can keep saying this over and over again, but I don't think it's going to make any difference. I just think that's just kind of how people are sort of wired. We want results. We want something really, really quickly. So when I see that kind of excitement, part of me goes like, that's great. I'm really excited that you're excited about sync licensing. That's really cool. But the other part of my brain goes, uh-oh. Is this person really ready for this business? Because this is going to be a long-term endeavor that is going to take a long time. And if they're this excited about it, it's almost like they're on a sugar rush. Like, that's kind of how I interpret it. You're hyped up on it. You're on your sugar rush. You're on the pink cloud of it, or whatever you want to call it. And at some point, it's going to crash. And at some point, this bubble that you're in and this excitement, it's just like New Year's resolutions, right? It pops, and then just reality sets in, and it's like, oh boy, here's what really life is all about in sync licensing. So I like to see people that come in with more of a level head of like, I'm ready to work, but I know it's going to be a grind, and let's just sort of consistently start getting this train rolling, right? All right. I didn't see all the chat coming in. Now I got it all updated so I can kind of get into the rest of what you guys were talking about. Sorry about that. Claudio, also from Italy, right on. Recently discovered the channel. Very inspirational, helpful. Very cool. You're asking, what is your advice and etiquette regarding pitching an album to different libraries at the same time, meaning sending the emails all at once? What is your thought? My thought is, don't do that. Do not send the same album to multiple exclusive libraries at the same time. Reason being, if you get 2 or even 3 that come back and say, we love it, Claudio, thank you so much, let's start working together. Guess what? You've got to say no to the other 2 or the other 1 that you don't want to work with. So you might have immediately created an enemy and pissed somebody off very quickly in sync licensing. And there are a lot of libraries to select from, but there's not an unlimited amount. So I would say you go to 1 exclusive library at a time. So you give them maybe a week, maybe up to 2. And you maybe have your list of 5 to 10 high quality companies that you want to pitch to, and you just kind of knock them out one at a time. And if they don't get back to you or give you the sort of, oh, thanks, but we're not accepting composers, or your music's just not a good fit for us, you thank them, always thank them, because you never know whose opportunities you might be running into in the future. You remember, you don't want to be making enemies, and then you move on to your next one. So 1 at a time, definitely not BCCing, CCing. Trevor and I have joked around about this, that he sometimes gets these emails for his company that he's one out of like 100 different companies that got submitted. And it's kind of funny. It's laughable, but like, that's like the classic newbie amateur move, is to just, spit it out there and hope that somebody likes it. It's such an amateur thing to do. Don't do that. Treat these people like human beings. If you were going to go ask out a girl for a date, would you want to have that girl see that you're asking out 100 different girls at the same time? How special does that make her feel anymore, right? No. Go ask the one that you're actually interested in, give her a shot. If she says no, all right, thank you so much, I'm going to move on to another one now, right? So it's kind of the same thing. Treat people like humans. People actually, believe it or not, respond very positively to that. So, all right. Stefan is saying, it's amazing. I haven't had a chance yet knowing what you're doing. It makes us, you can see a path now. I think you're talking about maybe Sync Up or Sync Connect. So that's great, Stefan, that you're feeling that you got a path now. It's great. So Arco, what's up? Happy New Year to you as well. Hassles, not a New Year's resolution, but I decided to divide my composing time between shorter production music for an album to pitch to libraries and a secondary market where I can sell rock beats at a lower price. Cool. Glad that you figured that out for yourself. It sounds like you've really put some thought into what makes sense for you and your schedule and what you can devote to this. That's great. Yeah, the one thing with those sort of maybe stock licensing sites. I don't have experience with them. It's not something I can give you guys advice on, but definitely they can result in more quicker upfront money coming towards you, right? Maybe not a lot, but obviously you don't have to wait for the 9 to 12 months for royalties to kick in for those opportunities. So that might be something that can kind of help supplement you guys. All right. Hey, Signature Music Services. Good to see you. Atlas Music, probably better to learn mastering on your own, though, without relying on AI. Yeah, I would agree. I've tried, Ozone 10, their plugin. I actually just used it the other day. I was working on this opportunity for one of the libraries I got a relationship with, and I was like, well, I want to master this, but I'm just curious if I click their mastering AI assistant, what happens? And sure enough, it was a mess. I mean, the low end was so wobbly and just almost distorted, and I was like, I don't know, maybe I'm not using it correctly or something like that. But at the end of the day, AI has a long way to go for making music sound great to human ears. I think it'll get there, but for right now, it's still much better just to use your own ears on it. I'm not going to be against it, though. If there's a AI tool where, as I'm composing, it can kind of start to suggest things, how the mix can be better, whatever, and it's actually getting me better results than what I got on my own, I'd be a fool to not want to use that kind of a tool. So I just don't think we're there yet. Maybe we'll never get there. Who knows? But we'll see. Atlas is asking, what's my opinion on indie labels like Position Music, etc.? I've got lots of music in Position Music, so I obviously like them, and I've done really well with them. So I do think smaller boutique companies, Position Music, I don't know if I would put that in the category of a smaller boutique company. They're pretty big. They got a lot of music at least. So, but yes, I've definitely I've got music into them, a few different albums. You can actually look at my name, or either you can look at my name or you can look at my artist name at the time. I sometimes go by it still, but it's Nifty Trick. You can find me there. I've got probably at least, I think 6, 7, 8 albums, something like that I did way back in 2014, 2015, 2016, those kind of years. So, but yeah, they've done really well for me. If you can get into them, I do recommend them. And JMo's asking if I'm back writing for Sync. Sort of. I'll talk about that. You could probably write for some very lucrative custom opportunities with your relationships now. Yes, and that's basically what I'm doing. I just got finished with one, actually. So there was an opportunity. I can't talk about it, but there was an opportunity to write music for a custom opportunity for a particular network through one of my relationships. And so, yeah, these days, because I'm really focusing mostly on Sync My Music and what we're doing here with all of our stuff, I am now in a luxurious position. I know this is going to make you guys all hate me. Sorry. I'm just going to be honest. I've gotten to the point where I can say no to a lot of opportunities if I just feel like, that's going to be a lot of work. I don't know if it's a guaranteed payoff. It may or may not work out. I think I'd rather just focus on Sync My Music. So that's really, I'm very, very lucky and fortunate to be in that position. I know you guys, I want all of you guys to get to that position at some point where you can kind of pick and choose which opportunities you want. In the beginning, don't do that. In the beginning, and in my beginning, I never was picking and choosing. I said yes to everything, no matter how big, no matter how small, because it wasn't so much even about getting the opportunity. It was more about proving to the library that gave me a shot that I'm a team player and that you can count me in. These days, obviously, my focus is a little bit more on other, endeavors. So it's not like my primary source of income anymore. So it's not something that I have to just take every single opportunity. But this one, when it was offered to me, I was like, not a guarantee that I'll get it. There's going to be other, I'm not like sort of like a shoe-in or anything like that. There's going to be other people that are submitting to it. But if it does go through, it could be a lot of back-end royalties for a lot of many, many, many years. So I thought, okay, that's definitely something worth me kind of getting back into it. And boy, it kicked my butt real quick. Like I figured out once again, how hard it is to write to custom opportunities. You can have an idea and you can work on it. And the hardest part I realized, this is something I forgot until I just did this again. It's actually like letting go of your own, it's not like a religious belief, but you get like a concept. So if somebody gives you a brief, they might even give you visuals. That's what they gave me. It was this kind of like rough, visual of what the opportunity was. And I had this idea. I'm like, oh, it's going to be this and this and this. And I just heard a recent piece of music that I think will fit perfectly for it. So I'm going through it. I'm trying to create something and it's just not working. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Like, I don't have any other idea. This is it. This is the only thing that I thought would actually work for this opportunity. And it's falling apart. It's just not working. I can tell it doesn't vibe up with the visuals. It's not giving the right energy. I was wrong. And it's hard to literally wipe all of that out and then just kind of like go back to square one and go like, all right, let me listen to the brief again. Let me read that email again. Let me watch these visuals. What are these visuals really saying? What tempo, what energy, what intensity is going on here? and actually have to kind of, my first initial impression was just wrong. And that's a big, I forgot about that. I was going through that a lot in my career. It's like, again, it's that ego battle. If the ego is like, oh, I'm right and I'm going to get this gig, and you have to go like, nope, let's turn that back down to 0. You don't know what you're doing. You were totally wrong on that one. Let's go back with a blank slate, forgetting all of those ideas, and come back to the foreground. What helped me is I knew it had to be a sort of primarily a rock track with some other elements infused into it. But what I did is I just went to, I think it was YouTube Music, and I just typed in whatever type of rock I was looking for, and I just went through 20 to 30 different, like, just popular artist tracks that were just in the kind of style of music I knew I needed to kind of head towards. I didn't listen to all of them. I just was like sampling through them, really quickly, just kind of getting a vibe and just getting energized and getting inspired. And after like 3 or 4 of them, I was like, oh, okay, I think I can go in kind of a different sort of like a 6/8, like a 3/4 swing feel, like a triplet feel for this rock track. And then when I started to actually just play that music with the visuals up on my screen, I was like, that's where this thing needs to go. And it just sort of, I'm not a guarantee I'm going to get it, may or may not, I have no idea. But at least I got that confidence back of like, okay, that's where I need to go. So just getting unstuck and getting unmarried to my initial idea of where I thought this track needed to go. So much easier said than done. That was very, very difficult. And I'm glad that I did it, though. I probably will put out a video on that of just kind of learning how to, I don't know, just let go of the sort of idea you originally fall in love with, because that's where we think, I don't know, that's where we think we're always right. But a lot of times your first impression, and I made the same mistake. I tell you guys this all the time. I always say, as soon as you get a brief, you want to open up your DAW immediately and start composing, because you see what the opportunity is. Maybe there's a huge sync fee and you're like, oh, I'm excited, let's go. And I made the same mistake. I opened up my DAW way too quickly. I should have spent even though I had about 3 or 4 days to knock it out, I should have spent 1 whole day not making music, just listening to a bunch of music, really watching the visuals of this thing, rereading the email a few times. I should have just let it just sat with this for a while, but whatever, you sort of have to relearn things as you get back into the flow of it. So now I'll know that if I have another opportunity in the near future. So just for you guys, don't open your DAW within the first couple of hours of getting a brief. You should really just spend time listening and absorbing and really trying to understand what's being asked of you, because it could probably save you a lot of time in your session. I think there was that old quote that was like, I don't know if it was one of the founding fathers of America, but they said like, I don't know if maybe it was Abraham Lincoln, but they said like, if somebody gives you 4 hours to chop down a tree, spend the first 3 hours sharpening the blade and then just chop it down at the end. And I was like, wow, so much wisdom in that, right? Which is, don't get immediately started on whatever, but really spend the time on sharpening your tools first and getting really clear on what you're going to do, so that by the time you do open your DAW, it's just like this force of creativity that just flows through you, hopefully effortlessly and very quickly. J-Mo's asking if, Social Ghost, you had a question here. Is there an album that you worked for a library in the past that you consider your best work, one that you go back to often, more often than the rest of your catalog, and think, man, this was gold or good? That's a good question, Social Ghost. I don't know if I have one particular one that was like my favorite. I don't know if I ever had a favorite album. I just remember there were favorite tracks. Like of every album that I did, there was usually like 1 or 2 kind of like title tracks, and usually they would name the album after that title track, or just be like number 1. And those were usually my favorites. So, I can maybe say styles of music, but that's a good question. I don't know if I can give you like just a great answer right off the top of my head. Trying to think of just like really fun ones that I did. To be honest with you, the fun opportunities were the ones I just did, the custom ones. I found that those were the most invigorating, most exciting, the most amount of dopamine drip I would get from those, because there's a deadline. It's tight. I need to get it done. I got to push myself. I got to get creative. I got to blend some things. I got to take notes. It almost feels like you're part of like a secret mission or something like that. Literally, that's kind of how I feel. I'm getting high off of the work, because I'm just like, this is so exciting. This might pay out huge. It might be a great opportunity. I'm excited to be a part of this. I feel almost also when there's like a big title or a brand name associated with it, that it's kind of one of those moments where I'm like, oh, I'm like doing this now. Like I'm actually a sync licensing producer. I'm working with a reputable brand, a very like well-known brand. So you get that feeling of like confidence that you kind of belong in the business. So you get a lot of amazing just reinforcement, great feelings from those kind of custom opportunities. So I can tell you that those are my favorite kinds to work on. But yeah, I'll have to think about that. That's a really good point. I mean, of course, I have a fondness for some of my earlier tracks because that was when I was just so, green and so early and so new to this. So sometimes I'll listen to those and go like, oh my gosh, I forgot about that riff and this riff. And it kind of just brings me back to where I was at, a 24-year-old basically. So it's kind of a cool little time travel for me. But yeah, I don't think I can give you a better answer than that. So JMO's asking if I automatically put aside 30% of royalties for tax time. Yes, I do usually have a large amount of money that I have in a checking account strictly for, and not just for, my royalties, but for my Sync by Music income, for all the income that I earn from various sources. Yes, as an independent contractor, as a self-employed person, it's something I've been used to since when I started doing all this in 2008. I was doing some independent contract work as a music or a videographer, so doing some video work and that kind of thing. So I've been used to kind of knowing that, around tax season, I get hit pretty heavily. These days now, I'm doing the quarterly payments, so it kind of doesn't feel as much of a big hit at the end of the year or in, March or April. But yes, for those of you guys that are going to start relying on royalties, for sure, you can't just be blowing through your cash. You've got to realize that that's not all yours. A good chunk of it, around 30%, is going to be due at tax time. So making sure that you've got a nice little cushion for yourself, something to be aware of. So Dave, hey, what's up, Dave? You're working through the Sync Psych content. Awesome, man. Glad to hear that. That is important, and that is why we put it at the very top in Sync Academy. I need you guys to really be taking that stuff seriously if this is going to be a full-time endeavor for you, or at least even a part-time endeavor. You got to get through that stuff. So I'm glad that you're taking that seriously, man. You're welcome, Jack. You're welcome for the reality check. I don't want to be I worry about this a lot, that I'm like, do you guys see me as like a dream killer? Because I've been called a dream killer in my life. Literally, that was one of my nicknames at one of the day jobs I had, because I have a tendency sometimes to get too realistic and too practical. And I don't want that to be my reputation, but I do want to be somebody that maybe, I don't know how I would describe it, but there's a delusional bubble that a lot of artists are floating in. Let's just put it that way. And I would like to know that I have some sort of a role in helping some of those bubbles get popped or maybe deflated a little bit, so that the reality of success kind of gets seeped into their consciousness, and it's not just about hoping and wishing that they get discovered and some amazing things happen, and because my girlfriend thinks my music is great for licensing, therefore I'll have a great, amazing career. There's so much positivity on all of that, but there's also a lot of delusion in all of that, and it kind of just drives me up the wall when, I don't know how to describe it, but when somebody comes up to you and they have a big piece of food on their face and they don't know it, it's just kind of you have to tell them, right? Like, hey, you got something right here, or some dirt or whatever, right? You got to let them know that. And when I come across producers, usually artists, a lot of times vocalists, just to be honest with you, that have that delusion, that are not grounded in reality about how success really works, especially with sync licensing, that's what it looks like to me. It's like they've got a big smear right on their lip, and I'm like, I know you're excited. I know you really want to do this thing, and I know you feel you're really, really gung-ho, but you got to wipe your mouth there. Like, you really actually are not prepared to look professional yet in this business. You've got some work to do, actually. So I don't know. I'm kind of cursed with this kind of truth-telling gene that I got in me, and it sometimes gets me in trouble. Many times, actually, on this channel and in my life. But like it or not, it's just a part of me. So I'm going to embrace it and going to do it. But I always want to check myself to be like, don't be so, thinking that you can go pop everybody's bubbles, because, people should have big dreams for themselves. And I do believe that. I have big dreams for myself. I know you guys do too. So I never want to be the one that's, a dream killer, so to speak. But I definitely want to help you guys get some solid footing under your feet, if that makes sense, some solid ground that you can actually walk on, and not be floating out there with just dreams of grandeur, right? Paul is asking if I have found Hey, Eric. Hey, Eric's here. Eric, for those of you guys that don't remember Eric, he was one of the success stories that we shared with you a couple of weeks ago. He's doing really well with sync licensing. So, Eric, man, good to see you, buddy. I'll be emailing you, by the way, Eric, about Sync Up. I want to potentially get you involved in that. So, I haven't forgot about you. I will let you know. But we're kind of focusing on Sync Connect this week, and then we'll see. We'll start work. I'm going to start focusing really on building up Sync Up, our in-person event, starting next week. So. Paul was asking if I have found electronic drum set useful for making sync music. Not so much. I did it a couple of times, Paul. It just was very cumbersome. It took a long time. Honestly, I'm so much faster with a keyboard, so I just didn't use it much. But I still love it. I still play that drum set. It's back at home. This is my studio. I don't have it at my studio. Kind of my studio. This is my office. But I'm really glad that I bought it because it just allows me to just very quickly turn it on and start playing drums. And so my chops are still staying fresh. And of course, for my daughters, like I've got a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, you better believe I want them to get exposed to drums. And we have a piano. I just want music to be around. I don't want to be the dad that's just forcing them into music and making sure they have to play music. But I want to be jamming all the time and playing with them and just letting them see that music is just a thing that they can have fun with and participate in. So I'm definitely glad that I have it in the house. It's probably the best thing, my favorite thing I've ever, purchased. So, and you're going to get maybe some drums for your apartment. So Paul, I'll tell you, like I had real drums for all of my, sort of real drumming years when I had bands and I was gigging and stuff. And I'll be honest, like I couldn't afford it back then to have an electronic drum kit. If you can afford to get a high quality, I have the Roland TD50, so it's pretty top of the line, really nice quality one. It's so worth it, man. It is so worth it because I don't know if you're upstairs, your downstairs neighbors might be pissed off at you. If you're downstairs, you don't have anybody below you, put on your headphones and just jam out to it. Even with that, you could probably put like some padding underneath the drum kit so it doesn't really transmit. Because even though there's no actual drums being played, like people can hear you tapping away on things, especially with your kick pedal. If you're a hard player, right? They'll be able to hear that. But man, to be able to turn that on, have any type of drum set you want. Like sometimes I can just play with some jazz music. I can get a cool jazz kit. I want to do some rock. I want to play hip hop. I can get some cool electronic sounds. Like it's so versatile. It sounds great. It feels great. It feels like a real drum kit. I can break a sweat still by playing them. So it's like it feels just as good as I could possibly want a drum kit to feel, and not completely annoy my family or my neighbors. So I think it's just a high quality thing to do, especially if you're a drummer, want to keep your chops up, want to just get better. It lowers the friction of being able to just show up and constantly get better at your craft. And so that's what it does for me. Is I can just for 5 minutes turn it on, jam for a couple of songs, even just with no song on, turn it off and go back and do whatever I was doing. Just to be able to do that so quickly it's amazing. I can just feel I'm getting more fluid with my chops. I'm actually adding new abilities that I never had, earlier on and I'm not even really taking it that seriously, but just the fact that I could just run in there at some point when I'm bored or I'm feeling a little restless because it's like a windy, rainy day with the kids. I'm like, all right, let's go into the music room and let's just bang out on some drums or whatever. Sometimes it's funny, I'll even put on like kids' music and just jam along to their favorite songs. So it's like, all right, it's not my kind of music, but at least they're having fun or dancing and going crazy. So anything that I can do to kind of get them exposed to that stuff, I will do it. Atlas is saying, cool to know you worked with Position. How is Position music from libraries, if any? I presume the submission is similar. Is it a label contract to work with instead of a sync contract? No. For me, it was just the same kind of, they're just like any other sync licensing production music. They are a production music library. That's what Position Music is. So they're going to be just like any other company you submit to. I don't know what their terms are. I know what my terms were. I was keeping 100% of my writer share, and I was getting a small amount for my upfront consideration fee. I'm trying to remember what the sync fees are. I want to say that we were splitting sync fees 50-50. I'm not 100% sure. It's been a while since I worked with them. But no, they're not like a record label. They're basically, they might have some artists that they're kind of representing, but for their production music series, for the stuff they're doing for production music, it's just like any other company that you would work with. Yes, SLF, thank you. 26 watching and only 5 likes. Hit that like button, guys. I appreciate it. 28 of you guys watching now. Appreciate that. How many songs on an album? 10 to 12? Yes. You should do at least 10 for an album. Depends on the library you're working with, but yeah, 10 is a really good solid number to at least have for your albums. Dave, great question. All right. Sorium Leet. Hey, glad to be helpful. Dave saying my encouragement comes off as very affirming as opposed to all that advice you got from your coworker back in the day. That was very discouraging. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Cool. Paul saying, don't be sorry for telling the truth. Right. Yeah. I never apologize for telling the truth, but yeah, it's like that other, I don't know how to describe it. Like, because I know a lot of you guys see me as a, whatever, teacher, coach, mentor, whatever it is. And I've definitely been turned off when I see other coach, mentors, teachers, be like brutally honest. Like, I know that sometimes is refreshing, but it also can come off as like sort of negative and discouraging. And so that's where I kind of want to find out where I'm trying to figure out my groove and all that kind of stuff. I do want to be positive. I do want to be encouraging for you guys, but I definitely don't want to just like, and that's just bugs me a lot sometimes with other people that talk about sync licensing. Not all, there's a lot of people that do tell the truth, but I don't like it when only the hype of this industry is shared, and then all of the hardships of it and the actual realities of what it really feels like to get into the trenches is sort of either minimized or not shared, or maybe people don't even know because they haven't been in it themselves, and they're only talking about, you know, the exposure and the amazing, awesome stuff that you can get out of this business. I never want to downplay that stuff because it is amazing. It's great. And we were just talking about with Anthony for the video I just released yesterday, where, you know, this guy was, some of you guys feel this way. Maybe Paul, you feel this way. He was stuck in the gigging world where it's like he's just gig to gig, tour to tour, you know, making his money, but like if he stops touring, like with COVID, you don't make money. And so he constantly was looking at like, where's my future then? I'm going to get old to the point where like this is going to start hurting my body to put myself through this, to constantly travel, to be away from my family and from my wife and my kids or whatever. And so he found with sync licensing, he's now only 3 years into the business and he's clearing $20,000 a year. Guys, that is way more than I ever made. And some people are thinking like the good old days of sync licensing are over. It's like, I hear stories like that. I'm like, I don't buy it because, you know, for me, 3 years in, I was maybe clearing maybe 5,000 a year, 10,000 a year. I wasn't at 20,000. I was really slowly building up my royalties and my credits. I was not getting there. I was seeing significant growth and definitely encouraging growth and exponential growth, but not where he was at. And same with Eric. Eric was doing way better a year and a half into his career than I ever was. So I hear these kind of stories, and so it lets me know for sure that the good old days are not behind us. The good old days are still here. It doesn't happen for everybody, and there's no guarantees, of course, but it's still like one of the best things that can free a lot of you guys up from, you know, like with Anthony and maybe with you, Paul, is getting you out of the day-to-day gigging kind of lifestyle into a more passive income where you can stay home and you can build up your future career. And that was what's so cool about what Anthony was sharing, is that he's now turning down gigs. I was like, wow, that's crazy that like after just 3 years doing this, he's now in this really great position to say, how much are you paying me for the gig? How long is it going to take me away from my family? I could take that time to create some more sync cues that might be able to get me some placements and recurring royalties and passive income for the next many, you know, years and even decades. No thanks, I'm not going to take the gig. And now he's got that option. He never had that option before. And now because of sync licensing, he's at least got the option. So I'm like, that's amazing that like this kind of industry is still providing that kind of a freedom and a lifestyle for those of you guys that are wanting to do music full time. So I think that's well enough to get excited about this business, but I don't want you guys running off into the distance thinking that it's just going to be all, you know, easy to get to that point. It was not easy for Anthony. It wasn't easy for Eric, and it's not going to be easy for you. It wasn't easy for me. And we try to prepare you guys with all of our, you know, videos and all the stuff that we're doing. JMO's asking, do any composers get nominated for the Production Music Awards and other ceremonies in the business? Seems like it's a secret club. Yes, but with the Production Music Awards, only those, I think there's only a couple of major publishers that get nominated for that. It's kind of like the Oscars as far as I understand it, or the Golden Globes, that like indies are probably not going to be included with that kind of a thing. So you have to be one of the sort of big or major publishers to get nominated for that. So yeah, it's not ideal, but you know, that's kind of how every industry does that, right? They all give themselves a pat on the back, and usually they kind of have like a sort of an inner club to do that. But we will be having, I'll tell you, speaking of that, at this year's Sync Up event, I will be awarding some awards and some trophies or plaques. We're going to figure out what we're going to get for you guys. But so we're going to create our own awards ceremony, which you don't have to be with the majors to earn those and win those. Those could be open to anybody. But I think it'll be open only to those of you that show up in person, because if I give you a trophy, I'm not going to hand you a trophy through the screen. That's just going to be kind of awkward. So for those of you that show up in person and want to submit a track to that, we will be judging those and giving some awards out for the highest quality production music there at that event. So, oh, cool. Paul, you also got some girls as well. Right on, man. Some daughters. Very cool. JMOs, should we make a mock-up reel of tracks to video as mock sync placements to show libraries? I would say only make a reel with visuals if you're submitting to maybe a ad primarily ad-based company. If you're sending it to a production library that just does, they stock up a lot of music and they serve all their clients with it, I don't think that's necessary. I think you just need to show them high quality music. They'll be able to see where your music could potentially fit in with their catalog. But that's not a bad idea for sure. And Atlas is asking about sending 10 songs to a library like Position Music or just 2 to 3 tracks. It kind of depends on what you're doing. If you have tracks with vocals, you might be able to get away with just 2 or 3 of them to say like these are just high quality, amazing vocal tracks. If you've got like minimal tension music or music that you feel would be better for like reality TV shows, you probably want to do 10 songs because it's more of like a quantity play where you're like, well, look at all these amazing tracks ready to go. You can slap your marketing on it and get it out to your clients tomorrow. So kind of depends on what you're submitting. But either one, there's a place for either one of those types of approaches. Robbie is asking about, is there somewhere we can find more about info on Sync Up in-person event you mentioned? I just moved to LA and would love to make some in-person connections. That's great. Stay tuned. I don't have anything really I can tell you now other than it will be near the LAX airport in Los Angeles, and it will be June 1st and 2nd. Okay, so we don't have any tickets available. We don't have any speakers announced. I still need to go contract everybody. So it's very, very early in the process. Last year, I was getting this stuff done much earlier because it was our first one, and I was a little bit unsure about getting it all together. It was a brand new process. Because we had such a successful first run at it, I know the second run is going to be successful as well. And I'm going to be probably pushing the announcement of the tickets into the future a little bit further. But don't worry, I will give everybody plenty of time to be able, if you got to get a plane ticket or whatever you got to get to come out. But it's going to be the same place it was last year. And yeah, it's definitely going to be a high quality networking opportunity for you guys to meet each other, me to meet you guys, and obviously most importantly for you guys to meet library CEOs at the event and pitch to them if you want to do that. So we'll give you guys all those details. I don't have anything I could share with you guys. I would say by early February, you guys should get some solid details on what's going on there, where the tickets can be had, how you can get a ticket and all that good stuff. So right on. This will be our last comment, guys, and I got to hop out of here. And Paul's saying that that's his mission, to be a home, teach his kids with your wife as your team, and it's your entire motivation. Yep, that's definitely where I'm at too, Paul, is I definitely want to be home as much as I possibly can, and help, steer my kids in the most, kind of like in a direction that I think they are going to thrive in. It's that's the kind of whole thing. It's kind of tricky about being a dad. I've already figured out is that I've got ideas of what I want them to do or where I want them to go or what sports I want them to play or what music I want them to get into. But that's not really my job. My job is actually not to try to fit them into my mold. My job is to kind of get to know them and let them sort of explore the world, figure out what they love, what they're really into, what they thrive with, and then try to give them all of the encouragement and the resources to be able to thrive in those categories wherever they go. And for me to just accept that. So sometimes obviously easier said than done, but we're only at the very beginning of this, journey with my kids being so young. So we're getting into those fun times here soon with my 3-year-old getting into be a talkative toddler. So that's going to be really enjoyable. So thank you guys so much. My last little pitch, I'll let you guys see. Make sure you guys see that we do have, again, just 6 spots left. These are the 9 CEOs that we have available at the beginning of 2024 for Sync Connect. So we were just talking about making sure that direct relationships are possible, that you guys can get to know these people before you pitch them if you want to, and you can pitch them during our calls if you'd like to. And you've got basically these 6 spots left. I don't know how many went while we were doing this live session, but maybe some of them did. But we've got people that have actually gotten successful results as a result of this service. So it is proven, and every single CEO we've already had on these sessions have had a direct relationship created as a result of this service. So it actually works. It actually is responsible for many people that were here getting their first foot in the door, or maybe getting their second or third library. So we've got high quality people for you to connect with. We hope you guys do join us for maybe one or all of these sessions if you'd like to. There's a link in the description box below if you want to learn more about this, get a preview of our sessions, and even click on all of these links so you can kind of see who these people are and what kind of placements they've received with their companies. So thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. Thank you for giving your time and your attention. And let's continue on with our New Year's resolutions. For those of you that still got those resolutions, keep going. Maybe we'll do another check-in in the next couple of weeks, and we'll see how you guys are doing. But thank you for sharing with me, and for all of us. And I wish you all continued success with your resolutions and with your sync licensing career. So we'll catch you guys obviously next week here on the channel. But for those of you that are in Sync Connect or sign up, we will see you this Saturday, January 13th at 9:30 a.m. with Mike Giannotto of Reverse Play. It's going to be a really, really good time. Can't wait for it. So we'll see you guys then.